Jaya Guru Devai Jaya. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki. So last week we read from chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, and some shlokas starting with text number 10, where Lord Krishna says what Dhyana Yogis, those who are interested in Dhyana Yoga should do. And in the purport, Prabhupada mentioned about Bhakti Yoga, or what devotees should do. So Prabhupada's style of purport is that first he will explain about what is the subject matter of Dhyana Yoga. Then in the next paragraph, he will mention about the devotees or devotional service. Because in Lord Krishna, he says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati. You can know me only through devotion, by nothing else. So Dhyana Yogis or any other yoga system, they have to come to the level of understanding Lord Krishna. And and to know Lord Krishna, only it is possible through Bhakti Yoga or through devotion. So we read about Dhyana Yogis, what they have to do. As Lord Krishna has mentioned, they have to go to a secluded place, away from the population, away from the cities, go to some secluded place, some ekanta place to set up, to do some meditation on something. And they have to find a place which is not like a seat. The place of seat should be not too high, not too low. And there the Dhyana Yogi should put a kushagra grass and the deer skin and sit on it tightly with in erect posture, and then meditate on the tip of the nose and meditate on something. Meditate. But Prabhupada explained that it is not possible in this Kali Yuga to go to secluded place away from this place. And he also explains that there is no need to do what is mentioned here. Just perform the devotional service and you will realize God. You will become Krishna conscious. Today we will read from text 15. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyatam manasah shantim nirvana paramam mat samstham adhigacchati. Word by word. Yunjan, practicing. Evam, as mentioned above. Sada, constantly. Atmanam, body, mind and soul. Yogi, the mystic transcendentalist. Niyata manasaha, with a regulated mind. Shanti, peace. Nirvana, paramam, cessation of material existence. Mata samstham, the spiritual sky, the kingdom of God. Adhikachati, does attain. So someone would like to recite this shloka one more time. Let me recite. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasah shantim nirvana paramam mat samstham adhigacchati.
Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasah shantim nirvana paramam mat samstham adhigacchati.
Anyone else?
Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasa shantim nirvana paramam mat samstham adhigacchati.
Or koi? Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. So this one is still from the same chapter, Dhyana Yoga, and this one is also about continuation of Dhyana Yogis, what they do. So after going to the secluded place, after finding the seat which is not too high, not too low, and putting the kusha grass and deer skin on, and then start meditating on the tip of the nose and meditate on something. and this is in continuation. Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, which is the Dhyana yogis here, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi, according to Bhagavad Gita. So nowadays we see Prabhupada is coming from which point he's saying that people have yogic societies and they go to yoga classes. But what they do is not connecting with the God, but they do only physical exercise. That is not the yoga. They should stop calling it a yoga. They should call it some physical exercise. Power yoga or something they call it nowadays. These are nothing but some physical exercise. There is no connection with the Lord there. So actually, yoga means connecting with the Lord. Prabhupada is warning here that this is not the real yoga. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi, according to Bhagavad Gita. Nor does cessation of material existence entail one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. So some meditation, yogic meditation, they claim that we connect you to void, meaning void means shunya in Hindi. Shunya means there is nothing. But Prabhupada explained the next line, there is no void anywhere within the creation of the world. There is nothing like void here. Everywhere you will find something. So there is no void here. So those who claim to connect with the void they are only fooling people. Rather, the cessation of material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of God, abode of the Lord. So those who are aware after practicing this, they actually are sort of liberated from their material pangs. Then they go into the spiritual sky or abode of the Lord. The abode of Lord is also clearly described in Bhagavad Gita as the place where there is no need of sun, moon, or electricity. All the planets in the spiritual kingdom are self-illuminated, like the sun in the material sky. The kingdom of God is everywhere, but the spiritual sky and the planets thereof are called Param Dhama, or superior abodes. So Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, Na tad bhasete suryo, na shashanko na pavaka, yad gatva na nivartante, tad dhama paramam. He says that, Na tad bhasete suryo, there is no sun, na shashanko, no moon, na pavaka, there is no agni, there is no fire. Yad gatva na nivartante, once someone reaches there, yad gatva na nivartante, does not have to come back again in this material world. Tad dhama paramam, that is my abode. Param dhama, or supreme, superior. That's the definition of the explanation of what Lord Prabhupada explains here in the abode of Lord. The next paragraph, Prabhupada explains, a consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna, as is clearly stated herein by the Lord himself, Mat Chitta, Mat Prana, Mat Sthanam, can attain real peace and can ultimately reach his supreme abode, Krishna Loka, known as Goloka Vrindavan. So the yogi, after doing all this practice, after meditation, there is a possibility that he will come to know about Lord Krishna. And after focusing himself on meditating on Lord himself, then there's a possibility that he can go to Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka, known as Goloka Vrindavan. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated, Goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhutaha. The Lord, although residing always in his abode, Goloka, is all-pervading Brahman and the localized Paramatma as well, by dint of his superior spiritual energies. So in one line, Prabhupada is explaining all three realizations. First is mentioning about Bhagavan realization, which is supreme, about Krishna. Then he says, because he is all-pervading, so the Brahman realization. And then localized Paramatma, which is seated in all the living bodies' heart, including human being. So the first Bhagavan realization, then he says Brahman realization, and then he says Paramatma realization. No one can reach the spiritual sky Vaikuntha or enter into Lord's eternal abode called Golok Vrindavan without the proper understanding of Krishna and his plenary expansion Vishnu. Prabhupada, as is mentioned here, no one can reach. So, as I mentioned earlier, Lord Krishna says, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. You can know me only through the devotional. So only after knowing Krishna and his activities, his pastimes, can someone enter into Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. So the best thing is to get the knowledge is to bona fide spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada. Then what he says is read Bhagavad Gita and read Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is Lord Krishna himself speaks and directs Arjuna what to do, what not to do. And also about Lord Krishna's pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam. So through these scriptures, we can know about Lord Krishna. And after we have thoroughly progressed in Krishna consciousness, there is a possibility of us going, or the yogis or bhakti yogis, going into Vaikuntha planets or Golok Vrindavan. No one can reach spiritual sky or enter into the Lord's eternal abode, Golok Vrindavan, without the proper understanding of Krishna and as his plenary expansion Vishnu. So no one can enter without understanding Krishna and his plenary expansion Vishnu. As we mentioned, I think last week, that all the expansions are equally powerful. The example given by Prabhupada is the lighting of the candle. So from one candle which is lit, we can lit more candles, and then we can't make out which is the real one, because all are equally powerful. All are equal. Similarly, all the expansions are equally powerful. Therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. So far it was about the Dhyana yogis. Now Prabhupada is explaining about the situation in Krishna consciousness or the Bhakti yogis. Therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi. He says the Bhakti yogis are the perfect yogi because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activity. Savaya Manaha Krishna Padara Vindayo. In the Vedas, also Shvetavatar Upanishad 3.8, we learn Tam eva vidatvati mrityum eti. One can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, perfection of yoga system is the attainment of freedom from the material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool innocent people. So Prabhupada is warning about people claiming to be some sort of yogic exercise. They are actually doing some physical exercise and they have nothing to do with yoga, and they only do some gymnastic exercise. And here Prabhupada is mentioned about from Shvetavatar Upanishad. One can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Meaning that if you want to come out of this cycle of birth and death, then we have to know Krishna. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna, Mam Upaityadu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. So if you want, here Lord Krishna says that from this planet to all the material, up to the material planet or up to the Krishna Loka, all the lokas, all the planets, there is a Punaravartino, meaning they have come back again to this material world again and again. But those who come to me, Mam Upetya, those who come to me, Punarjanmana Vidyate, there is no Punarjanma again. So Punarjanma not that meaning there is no birth and death, as mentioned in this purport by Srila Prabhupada from Shvetavatar Upanishad. In another place, Lord Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yogeti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti soch. So one more shloka about punarjanma, that those who know about tattvataha as it is, or from realized soul, about janma karma, janma of Lord Krishna's birth and the activities that he performed here, they are all transcendental. And those who know this tattvataha as it is, or from the bona fide spiritual master, then there is tyaktva deham punarjanma. After leaving this body, there is no punarjanma, there is no death and birth again in this material world, because then the soul get transferred to either Vaikuntha planet or Golok Vrindavan. So we go to the next shloka. Text 16. Nati asna tu yogo asti na chaikantam anashnatah na chati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. Let me repeat one more time. Nati asnatas tu yogo asti न चैकांतम अनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन. Anyone wants to repeat?
Nati.
Okay, bro, continue.
Okay, you continue, Prabhuji.
नत्यास्नतास्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तम् अनास्तनः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन.
Nati snatasto yogosti na chaikantamana snata na chati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva cha arjuna.
So here there are two words, ashnatas, and the opposite word is anashnatas. So we learn that in the synonyms. Word by word. Na, never. Ati, too much. Ashnatah, of one who eats. Tu, but. Yoga, linking with the Supreme. Asti, there is. Na, nor. Cha, also. Ekantam, overly. Anashnatah, abstaining from eating. Na, nor. Cha, also. Ati, too much. Swapna shilasya, of one who sleeps. Jagratah, or one who keeps night watch too much. Na, not. Eva, ever. Cha, and. Arjuna, O Arjuna. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Prabhupada is, Lord Krishna is talking about Jnana yogis only, but it is equally applicable for all the other yogis. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. Prabhupada is saying that anyone who eats too much, other than eating is required only to keep the body and soul together. There is no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. So the people who are vegetarian, eating vegetable foods, milk, and grains, they are in mode of goodness, sattva good. Animal food, and those who are indulging in animal food, they are in mode of ignorance, or tama good. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food, which is not first offered to Krishna, will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. So Prabhupada added one more thing. Not only those who eat animal food, but those who eat vegetarian food also, or drink anything which is not first offered to Lord Krishna. So here Prabhupada is coming from the angle that animal food cannot be offered to Lord Krishna. So then even the vegetarian food which is not offered to Lord, what Prabhupada is saying, not first offered to Krishna, will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. Bhunjate te tva agam papa ye pachanti atma karana. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. Prabhupada is warning us that if we are eating for ourselves, not offering to Lord Krishna, then we are eating verily sin. One who eats sin and eats more than is allotted to him cannot exhibit perfect yoga. It is best that one eats only the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. So the Bhakti yogis, those who worship Krishna, they offer everything to Lord Krishna, does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstain from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. So there are nowadays we see so many people have different types of fasting, but what is not prescribed in the scriptures. For example, today we are fasting from grain on account of Ekadashi to please the Lord. But those who fast for some other material reason, to keep the body or whatever, or for political reason, fasting unto death or fasting for some cause, meaning political cause or some material cause, they cannot make any progress in Krishna consciousness. Yes. So, and it's what the fasting should be prescribed in the scriptures and recommended by the guru or the spiritual master. Then only it is okay to abstain from eating. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, or he is thus competent to, and he is thus competent to perform yoga practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. Now, Prabhupada is explaining that one should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. How much we should sleep? One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 hours is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. So even for Bhakti yogis, now this last part is about Bhakti yogis or the people, devotees in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is saying should not eat too much and should not abstain from eating. Eat only what is required to keep the body and soul together, and should sleep only for 6 hours, not more than 6 hours daily. Those who sleep more than 6 hours daily, they are lazy, as per Prabhupada, and they are prone to such a great sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. So it is warning for us, those who sleep more than 6 hours and then eat more than what is required to keep the body and soul together. Now we go to the next text, 17. युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Let me repeat one more time. युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Prabhu, you want to repeat?
युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेतस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः.
Word by word, Srila Prabhupada. Yukta, regulated. Ahara, eating. Viharasya, recreation. Yukta, regulated. Chestasya, of one who works for maintenance. Karmasu, in discharging duties. Yukta, regulated. Swapna, avabodhasya, sleep and wakefulness. Yoga, practice of yoga. Bhavati, becomes. Dukkha, diminishing pains. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He who is regulated in his habit of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Let me repeat one more time. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So the all four things mentioned here: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and work. Sorry, sleeping, recreation, and work. Prabhupada explains in the purport. Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. The first line Prabhupada is warning us that too much of eating, too much of sleeping, too much of anything, mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement. It is a vigna, meaning in practice of yoga, or even for bhakti yogis also, this is impediments in progress, making any progress in Krishna consciousness. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified. Lord Krishna is offered, according to the Bhagavad Gita 9.26, vegetables, flowers, fruits, grains, milk, etc. So in Bhagavad Gita 9.26, Lord Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Only these four things or anything connected to this can be offered to Lord Krishna. Nothing else, nothing more. And that is what the devotees, after offering to Lord Krishna, remnants are taken and they accept these remnants. And they are normally in them. Then we are in mode of goodness, in Sattva Guna. In this way, a person in Krishna consciousness becomes automatically trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption or not in the category of goodness. So the devotees of the Lord, they don't accept anything other than the bhogas or the food offered to Lord Krishna first. So that is why Prabhupada is calling it a prasadam, sanctified. And this food should consist only vegetarian food or milk and milk. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. So Prabhupada will give example further that he used to sleep only for 2 hours. He gives example of Srila Rupa Goswami also further in this paragraph itself. And those who sleep too much, in the previous shloka also we read, they are in the mode of ignorance. More than 6 hours sleeping is not recommended by Srila Prabhupada, because that doesn't help us in, that makes the body lazy, and then we cannot make any progress in Krishna consciousness. Avyartha kalatvam. A Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, his sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this respect is Srila Rupa Goswami, who was always engaged in the service of Krishna and who could not sleep more than 2 hours a day, and sometimes not even that. So, example of Srila Rupa Goswami, sleep only for 2 hours. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam or even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beads 300,000 names. 300,000 meaning 3 lakhs names. Srila Haridas Thakur used to chant 3 lakhs names only after chanting, meaning practically whole day he will be busy chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Then only he will accept prasad. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest. And thus, his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. Since there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. And because he is regulated in all his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Now, Prabhupada is glorifying devotees that those who are in Krishna consciousness, there is no misery for them, is because they are doing everything, keeping Krishna as center. Prabhupada has given us wonderful programs. In the early morning, we have Mangala Arati, then we have the session for Japa, then we have Srimad Bhagavatam class, offer prasadam to Bhoga to the Lord, then we accept this prasadam. Then, we have so many books written by Prabhupada to read, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so many other books Prabhupada has written for us to read. Evening again, we have Sandhya Arati, then some time for Kirtan, then Shayana Arati, and then we have Bhagavad Gita class, short class. So he has given us the timetable, time schedule, and for Grihastha, because they have to go to work and office work or maybe business or whatever they want to do, and they earn the money for family, and then some portion is given as charity to for the practice of Krishna. In the people are, yes, the grihasthas, then whatever money is earned, they offer prasadam, bhoga to the Lord. So Krishna in the center, everything is done by the grihasthas also, and everyone else in Krishna consciousness. Here Prabhupada Lord Krishna is talking about yuktahara viharasya, that eating and sleeping should be regulated. Prabhupada elsewhere he mentions that he's warned us that those who eat too much, they get this disease called diabetes. Nowadays, which is very dangerous in India, most of the Indians have diabetes. That Prabhupada is saying that those who eat too much, they get this. And those who eat too little, they get the tuberculosis, Shaya. So there's a warning there that we have to regulate our eating also, along with sleeping and the behavior. And everything should be done for the pleasure of the Lord, to become Krishna conscious. Next text 18. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani eva vatisthate nispruha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate tada. One more time. Yada viniyatam chittam atmani eva vatisthate nispruha sarvakamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. Someone wants to recite?
Yada viniyatam chittam atmanneva vatistate nispruha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityuchyate sada.
यदा विनीयतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठस्ते निःस्पृहा सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्ता इति उच्यते तदा.
Right. Word by word. Prabhupada. Yada, when, viniyatam, particularly disciplined, chittam, the mind and its activities, atmani, in the transcendence, eva, certainly, avatisthate, becomes situated, nispruha, devoid of desire, sarva, for all kinds of, kamebhyaha, material sense gratification, yuktaha, well situated in yoga, iti, thus, uchyate is said to be, tada, at that time. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. So we are still reading from the same chapter, Dhyana Yoga, and this is for Dhyana Yogis. Lord Krishna says, when the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities, means whatever he's thinking or whatever he's doing, his mental activities, and becomes situated in transcendence, meaning the meaning of transcendence is devoid of material desires. When all the material desires are burnt, then he is said to be well established in yoga. Not otherwise, not by doing physical exercise, but by leaving all the material desires. So when material desires, how to avoid? Because if we keep Krishna in the center, and if we become Krishna consciousness, over the period of time, we will actually get rid of all the material desires. In purport, Prabhupada explains, the activities of the yogis are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by his characteristic cessation from all kinds of material desires, of which sex is the chief. So Prabhupada is explaining the yogis, from ordinary person, how they are different is they are above all the material desires, meaning they don't have any material desires. And the main material desires here Prabhupada is saying is the sex, the Indriya Tushti. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kinds of material desire. So the perfect yogi, for those who are the perfect sadhaka, उत्तम sadhaka, he does not have any material desire. कोई भौतिक साधन, भौतिक इच्छा नहीं रहेगी. This perfectional stage can automatically be attained by a person in Krishna consciousness, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, Prabhupada is quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam of how the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness can get this stage automatically. Prabhupada is quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4, 18 to 20. Savai manah Krishna padara vindayor vachamsi vaikuntha gunanu varnane karo harer mandir marjan na disu shrutim chakara chuta sat kathodye mukunda lingalaya darshane drishau tad bhrutya gatra sparshe anga sangamam घ्राणम च तत्पाद सरोज सौरभे श्रीमद तुलस्या रसनम तद अर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्र पदानुसर्पणे शिरो ऋषिकेश पदाभिवंदने कामं च दास्ये न तु काम काम्यया यथोत्तम श्लोक जनाश्रय पति. The long 3 shlokas are there. This is quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam from chapter 9. Canto 9, chapter 4, shloka number 18 to 20. It is about King Amrish Maharaj. King Amrisha, first of all, engaged his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna. So here, the first limb or the first part of the body is mind, and mind is focusing on lotus feet of the Lord, Bhagavan ke charan. Then, one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Then he uses his tongue to glorify the Lord. His hands in mopping the temple of the Lord. Again, he's using his limbs to clean the temple of the Lord. His ears in hearing of the activities of the Lord. So next, limbs, the ears are used to hear the activities of the Lord from Srimad Bhagavatam. His eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord. Next part of the body is eyes. His body is touching the bodies of the devotees. His sense of smell is smelling the scents of the lotus flowers offered to the Lord. His tongue is tasting the tulsi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. His legs in going to the places of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord. His head is offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord in Krishna consciousness, they do all these activities. When all the parts of the body, they are used in worshipping the Lord. The head is used to offer obeisances. The legs are used to go to place of worship, go to the temple. Hands are used again for keeping the temple clean or the ashram clean, or the picking up of flowers and offering to the Lord. The sense of smell is used to smell the scents offered to lotus feet of the Lord, or the flowers or tulsi leaf. The tongue is used for tasting the tulsi leaf. So all the parts of the body are used by Amrish Maharaj which are connected with Krishna consciousness. So that's how all the devotees of the Lord, they keep all the limbs busy in the service of Krishna. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting of pure devotee. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible, subjective by the followers of the impersonalist path. Those who do not the impersonalist path, but it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness. So those who don't belong to worshipping Krishna, they are impersonal, and it is very difficult for them to do these activities. If they don't have anything to worship, like Krishna's Archa Vigraha is not there, what will they offer? What service they will do? Right. Similarly, they cannot smell anything, so they cannot do any activity. They cannot make any use of their limbs in worshipping of the Lord. So what Prabhupada is saying, it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagement of Maharaj Amrisha. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagements are not practical. So the mind has to be engaged first. In the devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archana, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind require engagements. Simple abnegation is not practical. Abnegation meaning anything that we reject is not practical. We have to keep our mind engaged. If mind is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, the mind will be engaged in something else, some nonsensical activity. So the best thing is to keep our mind always engaged 24 hours a day in Krishna consciousness. Yes, therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind is described above is a perfect process of or transcendental achievement, which is called yukta in the Bhagavad Gita. So there is a concept called yukta vairagya mentioned by Prabhupada here. Here the word used is yukta by Prabhupada. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada explained the yukta vairagya. There's the person in Grostha life or the householder life does not have to go to Himalaya or any sacred place, leave the family and do all the sadhana mentioned by in Dhyana Yoga, right? But keeping here, being here only, being with the family, in the association of devotees, worshiping Krishna, there is a opportunity for everyone, including householder, to become Krishna consciousness. The householder should spend some amount of money earned for the welfare of Krishna consciousness or to propagate the Krishna conscious movement. Also, the offering of the Lord and feeding the Vaishnavas in the service of Vaishnavas. Yes, and the limbs can be used. For example, the weekly programs that we have, people come to the temple, use their limbs to walk up to the temple of the Lord, and or maybe use their money earned in the spending of the petrol and using their vehicles to come to the temple. We use everything what is available with us in Krishna consciousness or in the propagation of Krishna consciousness or to make progress in devotion life. So that's the word called yukta or yukta vairagya. I think it's time now. We should stop here. If there are any questions on any of these shlokas that we discussed today or the last week. Any question, any comments?